Gladiator II is a sequel 24 years in the making. Ridley Scott returns directing a follow-up to a film that was a critical success, box office sensation, an Oscar juggernaut. And so the question I had going into this film was if there was even a world where this could be better than the first. And the answer is obviously no, but I don't think that means this movie is completely worthless. This is one of the most entertaining films you can see at the box office. I saw it in IMAX. I would highly recommend it. Ridley Scott still has what it takes when it comes to directing these larger-than-life spectacles that you need to see on the big screen. This film stars Paul Mescal in the lead role, and I can't even really talk about what his character's relationship is to the first film. I know it's been heavily implied within the marketing, and most people kind of knew going into it, but for the sake of spoilers, I won't be talking about that necessarily. Just know that this is strongly connected to the first film, and if that is not fresh on your brain, I would do a refresher. And from what I can tell, that definitely divides a lot of people on their opinion of this movie. I think the story itself is rather lacking because it is relying so much on your knowledge of the first film, and it certainly lends to a larger conversation we need to have about legacy sequels, because whether it's The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, Top Gun Maverick, Beetlejuice, there is certainly a formula that these films need to follow, and this film really tries to do that. In fact, a large amount of this plot is just a remake of the first film when it comes to character motivations, even certain set pieces, the pacing of it all, and when this film does try to become its own thing, it does so in a way that is playing on your knowledge of the original plot, so that it's trying to subvert your expectations. And so it doesn't even really feel fresh in that way, because the only reason it's doing that is to purposely try to stand out from the original film. That didn't bother me too much, and again, it's one of those things where Paul Mescal was never going to be as charismatic in the lead role like Russell Crowe was, but I did enjoy his performance for what it was. It is written slightly different than Russell Crowe's character, and so I think if you have that expectation of this war general that's going to come and save the day, it's not necessarily that, even though the story wants to put him in that position. It's just one of those impossible tasks that I commend him from standing up and trying to do, especially when you look at the rest of the cast in this film. Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, Connie Nielsen, one of several characters reprising their role in this film, and all of them do a terrific job in their own right. I think there is some tension when it comes to the different acting styles and performances that they're giving, but it's another thing where I kind of count against the script of this film rather than their performances, because I think they're doing exactly what they're being told to do. It just feels like the tone of this film isn't as consistent. You have these twin emperors and Denzel Washington, who spends a lot of time with them, talking politics within the Roman Empire, and when you spend time with them, it feels like you're watching a comedy. It's goofy, their performances are so over the top. Anytime you see Pedro Pascal or Paul Mescal, they're taking this film so much more seriously, and it's not even that I preferred one tone over the other, it just felt like whiplash going back and forth, and I think this film would have benefited if it would have committed more to one of them. There's also just a lot of plot in this film, where the first film felt like a much more condensed, simplified story. In this film, there are a lot of dynamics and relationships that you have to keep track of, which often requires very blunt exposition from our characters, including a lot of flashbacks just to catch up the audience with what is happening. And so it's another one of those situations where I do appreciate that they are adding more to this world and not just copying what happened in the first film, but in doing so, it does feel a little messy at times. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the big action set pieces, this film feels epic. I'm sitting there in the theater having these minor nitpicks over certain scenes or dialogue, but then all of a sudden, the big epic speech takes place. You're watching this hand-to-hand combat. It just pulls you right back in, and this is where I'm so grateful Ridley Scott still has passion for making films like this. So while I don't think this is a perfect film and isn't really anywhere close to what the first was, I still think this is one of the better times you have in the theater, and I would highly recommend this film to anyone who wants to see a spectacle like this. So those are some of my thoughts on Gladiator 2. Have you seen the film? I would love to hear your thoughts on this, so please comment below, and I will see you next time.